for research here, and I'm just going to say a few words to kick this off. I want to thank you all for coming and for your interest in Vermont's fastest and most rapid supercomputer that we've ever had. And you're going to hear more about that later on from especially Dr. Del Maestro and the president of the university, who's here, who will also be addressing you. I want to point out that in this room we have an extraordinary array of talent. We have the leadership of many different parts of the University of Vermont. We have deans of colleges, we have vice presidents, we have the chief information officer, we have the people that actually make these computers work, we have the people that are responsible for writing grants and doing the research, we have the people that are responsible for processing the grants and getting the money. And all of these parts have to interdigitate and work together to get what we have today. So it really is a huge group effort. And I thank you all in advance for what you've done and what you're going to do with this. One very important thing I want to emphasize is this is called a core facility. And that's a term that sometimes causes some confusion. The reason it's a core is that to be successful in today's science and technology research, you need to have really sophisticated equipment, which is really expensive. And for most individuals, they cannot afford to buy those things by themselves. So a laboratory may not be able to buy that. A department may not be able to buy it. Even a college may not be able to buy it. And so what we have to do is pool resources and have a shared facility so that everybody in all departments, in all colleges, can use the equipment that's there. And examples of this are pretty well known for things like a microscopy suite with advanced electron microscopes, or a functional magnetic resonance imaging suite. So people are familiar with these equipments and they hear about them. What they don't hear about is what one of the most important cores that we can possibly have today, which is computer power. And so these sophisticated pieces of equipment generate massive amounts of data. And unless there's a way to collate and analyze and use that data, the data is actually useless. So having this facility here and taking our advanced computer core and upgrading it, as you'll hear about today, gives us a huge shot in the arm to do more and better research of all kinds across the entire university. So I think it's important to realize that this will be available to faculty members from all colleges, from all departments. And it will also be something which we increasingly want to make available to students, because the future means that students need to know about this technology. They need to know how to utilize it. They need to know what it's about. So we're increasingly going to be doing that. We're going to make it available to other colleges throughout the state of Vermont, and even to startups and businesses under certain circumstances. So the takeaway message is that it's just as important to have this sort of unseen computer power as it is to have bricks and mortar in a great laboratory. So I'm going to now introduce you to the main star of this show, which is Adrian Del Maestro. He's a professor of physics. He's the director of the Vermont Advanced Computer Core. As you may or may not know, my business is to spend a lot of time worrying about grants. This grant that this guy wrote is one of the most beautiful, most elegant grants I've ever written, and that's why we have $1 million from the National Science Foundation. Dr. Del Maestro.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's extremely exciting to be here today to announce DeepGreen, the newest supercomputer at the University of Vermont. And as Richard said, so I'm currently the director of the Vermont Advanced Computing Core, but I've actually been a user of the Vermont Advanced Computing Core since I arrived here in 2011. And in fact, it was one of the reasons why I decided to come to the University of Vermont. So we've been supplying high-performance computing services to researchers across campus and throughout the state via collaboration since 2003. via our conventional supercomputer that we have right now, which is called Blue Moon. Blue Moon's been an amazing machine, and my group has used it in our research from basically the day that we arrived on campus. And I'd just like to echo what Richard said, that this investment in cyber infrastructure is absolutely essential to our mission as a premier research university in the state. It's as important as brick and mortar laboratories, definitely. And one thing that we've really tried to do at the Vermont Advanced Computing Core is be responsive to our users. We have about 300 users across campus, 90 PIs. And over the last couple of years, our users have been telling us that they wanted a certain type of hardware, a certain type of compute power that we didn't really have access to with our conventional supercomputing cluster. And so what we did is we got together an interdisciplinary team from across campus, and many of those people are here today. And we wrote this grant to the National Science Foundation to build this new type of supercomputer. And we're extremely excited to have been awarded that grant, and it definitely came with the support of the Office of the Vice President for Research and the Office of the Provost. And we received that money in the fall of 2018. And since that time, we've been working hard with our partners at Enterprise Technology Services, so Mike Austin and Jim Lawson and Andy Evans, and administrative support from Andy Elledge, who did a lot of the organization for this event today, so thank you very much, to build this amazing machine. And this machine is based on graphics processing units. It has 80 graphics processing units, or GPUs. And so when I say GPU, you might think, well, isn't that for video games? Right? But it turns out that the types of things that GPUs are very good at that happen in video games, that same computing power can be leveraged to train deep neural networks and to do a lot of the most advanced artificial intelligence research that people are really utilizing today. So this machine, DeepGreen, and over there you can see one of the compute servers inside DeepGreen is composed of 80 GPUs. So okay, that's a number that doesn't mean that much, but 80 GPUs is about 1 petaflop of processing power. Or if, like me, you grew up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, that's 10 Commander Datas. That's a lot of processing power. It's about 20,000 conventional laptops. So it's a huge amount of power. It has incredibly fast networking, both from the central campus out to here and then on the cluster. So for example, if I want to transfer a data file that can describe, let's say, 1,000 quantum particles, I can get that from campus out to the data center in about a second. And then once it's here, the file system and networking is so fast that we don't have a problem that other clusters, similar clusters, have called data starvation. So we can process the data as fast as we can feed it into the GPU. And that is really about this absolute state-of-the-art networking that we were able to design and implement and deploy. And in fact, some of it was so state-of-the-art that we bought components that didn't even have all the software written yet to make them work. And so we've worked incredibly hard with our team here to get everything up to date and working. And after about a month or so of beta testing, we're now excited to announce that DeepGreen is ready for use by everybody across campus. So that's pretty exciting. You can imagine that all this processing power produces a lot of heat, and in fact, you'll see on the tour that DeepGreen produces the same amount of heat as about 18 household ovens operating at full blast with the door open in the size of a refrigerator. So that's a lot of heat, and we designed and installed a cooling unit that can deal with all of that heat, and you can see that thing blowing quite strongly. DeepGreen, the name of it is not just an amalgamation of deep learning and the University of the Green Mountains. We think that this is really a game changer in terms of an environmentally friendly supercomputer. So basically it can reproduce the conventional processing power of about 1,000 typical compute servers, and it's about 95% more energy efficient. So that's an amazing thing that we're really proud of. It's quite exciting. Also in terms of its space, it's very compact, as you'll see on the tour. In fact, building a conventional supercomputer would be about 20 times as much space, maybe even a little bit more than that, and that would take up over half of the space that we have over there at the tech center, and you'll be able to see just how compact that is. So we're extremely excited. We see our mission going forward as DeepGreen as really allowing the scientists and researchers here at UVM and throughout the state, through collaborations, to allow them to leverage some of these artificial intelligence and deep learning technologies to really combat and attack some of the great problems that we're facing today. I'd like to invite President Garamella to come up here and tell us a little bit about some of the amazing science that's happening on DeepGreen.
Some of you know that I'm new to UVM. The more of these grants that you get that we can celebrate, the more I look good, so keep doing it. Thank you very much, and thank you to the team. I know David Rosowski, the previous provost, and Richard Galbraith were very strong supporters of developing this capability. The institution I come from is known to have some of the fastest supercomputers in the country, and so that we built in similar ways. So I have a lot of love for the approach that you've taken. By the way, don't touch anything there, people. Those are expensive things. And so this is just a great way to do this, I think. And I'm just really impressed that you've got so many faculty members, and just lovely to see graduate students here and undergraduate students and such. I asked one of them what he wants to be when he grows up, and he said he wants to be an astronaut. So, you can be anything you want to be. But, so first, I think I will join Richard and Adrian in congratulating the team and thanking the National Science Foundation. I could also claim somehow that, so I serve on the National Science Board that oversees the National Science Foundation, so I could say I had something to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. So I'm just here to celebrate, and I'm very pleased that one of the first, actually the first formal sort of kickoff thing that I'm doing is your amazing success, and that of all of you. Safwan, I want you to stand here so you're not hiding in the back there. So, and really, I think when I think of why this is so important, it's a great core facility. Computing facilities are things that people sort of, it's almost an afterthought sometimes compared to some big cryo-EM or some big physical facility, but it's at least as important and perhaps more. And this will truly sort of put on steroids, I guess that's not a good term to use, it'll really energize interdisciplinary research. I see that a good number of you have sort of come across what people think of as silos. It's great to have deans of our arts and sciences and engineering and, gosh, you've got long names, engineering, mathematical sciences, and you've got the Rubinstein School and all of those here. So it's nice to see that it's many different entities at UVM that are being affected. So it's great for the faculty, it's great for interdisciplinary research, and it's really great for the students, right? And you see a lot of excitement. I think for them to have worked on something like this positions them, firstly, to do great research, but also to be just very employable. It's great for the workforce of Vermont, and so I think it's a win-win for small businesses or startups, like Richard said, but also larger businesses and the state of Vermont. So I think any amount that we celebrate these kinds of successes isn't quite enough. So with those thank yous, I wanted to learn a little bit about all the great work that was being done. I'm really pleased that some of the folks are here. I think Josh Bongard couldn't be here. He's from computer science, or is he? So he works on robotics and safe AI, and will use deep neural networks and crowdsourcing to develop safer AI for human-machine interactions. You see more and more talk about AI, and I think the safety of that is critical. We've got Hugh Garavan, I'm not sure he's here either, and he's working in computer vision and AI, and very interesting application. I think I'm messing that up. Keep me away from computers. He's looking at adolescent illicit drug abuse through brain imaging data. I don't need to tell you how important that area is in terms of being important for the state of Vermont. We've got Jianing Li, who's here with a big group of our students who's looking at new drugs for chronic pain and migraine and for stress-related disorders. How many of us feel like we have stress-related disorders? Bill Falls, raise your hand. Very good. And so she's studying the nervous system in great detail that'll help us figure out ways of addressing these. There's Safwan Rashah, who works quite closely with the state, with the Department of Transportation. He's been looking at smaller sets of data, but this computer will enable him to, DeepGreen will enable him to look at much larger sets of data so that he can advise the state on how to place road signs and makes for safer driving, and we all want that. And so, speaking of interdisciplinary, there's also agricultural ecology, so insects and evolution, and DeepGreen will enable Yolanda Chen to look at a threat assessment of pests, of Colorado potato beetles. She's looking at multiple aspects of climate change and how the environment's changing to see how they adapt. And once you understand how they adapt, I'm assuming you can also come up with there are insecticide-resistant genes that you're studying, which will enable novel control technologies. And finally, Juan Venegas is here, and there are many others that are using this, but we wanted to give you some examples to give you a sense of what they're doing. So he works with molecular machines. That sounds like a lot of fun. And basically what he's trying to do is, the work he's doing will lead to transformative antimicrobials. You know, antimicrobial resistance is one of the most fundamental challenges that is emerging in the medical care space, and if one can make some progress, that will help a lot of us, not only in this country but all over the world. So I just want to point out again that besides the researchers having amazing computing power that comes as a result of this, it really is addressed also, and I suspect one of the reasons your proposal was successful is that it's for including students in this work, undergraduate, graduate, postdocs. We at UVM are very interested in growing our graduate student and our postdoc population, and you need facilities like this to attract them, and make them astronauts. And so I think, whether it be AI, neural networks, physics, chemistry, computational physics, etc., there's a lot of areas in which this capacity will help our students, and truly it'll position them to be very highly sought after folks for companies to hire, and hopefully to attract companies here. Hopefully some or most of them will stay in the state and be an asset to the state as well. So I think it truly is a nice combination of a strong sort of boost to the economy of the state, to the workforce, to great research, and to our education. So congratulations again to everyone. And now, let's hear a bit more about what the actual machine is. I'll just note in passing that that we heard about the cooling problem with these big devices and how it's being done environmentally. That's been my life's work for the last 30 years. So if you have cooling issues with it, call me. So again, thank you very much.
Okay, so it was extremely difficult to come up with just one example to show you of all the amazing things that are being done and will be done on DeepGreen. And so we chose one that's coming out of the Vermont Advanced Artificial Intelligence Lab, which is Professor Sephlin Shaw right there. And so please feel free to talk to him more afterwards. And so I'm going to try to give a quick summary of some of the amazing research that he's doing. This is a picture of something that might be happening on DeepGreen. So the idea, as President Garamella said, is that we would like to be able to figure out what the condition is of the signs at the highways and byways throughout Vermont. And so historically, imagine how this would have been done. So there would have been first some guy with a clipboard walking around and taking notes on the status of signs, and then maybe someone driving around and then having to watch all the video in case they miss signs. And so what DeepGreen can actually do is it can take automated road analysis data, basically video, high-speed video of the road, someone can just drive along the roads, can basically find all of the signs in those pictures, and we'll see a real-time example of that shortly, through deep learning technologies enabled by the special tensor cores on DeepGreen, which you can see again over there in one of those servers. One can not only detect and know which type of signs there are, but also geolocate them through the state, and thus build a real-time map to be able to see what's the quality of those, do they need to be replaced, what's the reflectivity. So this could be useful, as President Garamella said, for road safety, but you could also imagine a situation, as I'm sure we've all faced, where you don't have GPS, that you could be able to maybe navigate autonomously just via signage. So just to see what DeepGreen is actually doing, so this is a video of I-91, and whenever you see it slow down and one of these boxes come up, DeepGreen is actually identifying a sign. So we're going, and then we should see one over there, and then this will keep going. Now we see this no U-turn sign, and there we go, there's the I-91 sign. So that's just a little bit of a flavor of what DeepGreen can do, and what would it potentially take, where I have a script set up. So let's move to the top here. And if I could ask President Garamella to come up here, we're going to try to submit this job.
You calling me?
Just hit enter.
So we're going to train one of these neural networks. So in principle, all you should have to do is just hit return.
Hold your breath. Hold your breath.
Okay, submitted batch job. So that looks good. And so now, and so now what we should be able to see. So let's get a live view before we go on our tour here and see if we can refresh. And you can see it right here. We've got this huge spike that's starting to show up right here. And if we wait a couple more minutes, this is going to go off the scale right there. So that kind of finishes this part of the presentation. So we'd like to split into a couple of tour groups. So maybe if a few people, President Garamella and Vice President Galbraith, could go over to where Mike Austin is there, and we'll get the first tour started, and then there'll be a number of tours, and everyone will get a chance to go across and see the data center. So again, thank you very much for coming. Please log into DeepGreen and start